Source Pro in Conversation is brought to you in association with Leapin, Australia's leading plan manager and two-time winner of the Most Outstanding Plan Management Award. Visit leapin.com.au to learn more.
Hello again, my name's Caleb Brixton and I'm going to be hosting this session on exploring the power of partnerships and how working with families, not just for them, can transform outcomes for children with rare and complex disabilities. So please welcome Fiona Lawton, a passionate disability advocate, sector leader, and most importantly, a parent. Fiona brings a unique and powerful dual lens: her lived experience as a mum of a child with Angelman Syndrome, and her professional expertise as the Disability Advocacy Manager at Rare Voices Australia, and the President of Angelman Syndrome Association. Today, she'll be sharing insights into system navigation, family advocacy, and the vital role that allied health professionals play in creating truly collaborative care. Welcome, Fiona.
Thank you, Caleb.
Thank you so much for coming. How are you going today?
Yeah, great to be here.
Oh, fantastic. So Fiona, you bring a beautiful sort of tapestry here of lived experience as a parent and this incredible deep professional expertise in advocacy. Advocacy and system navigation. Can you briefly sort of share with me what is your journey? Like, what's a little bit about your journey that's led you to being here into this space?
Yeah, I think like everyone's journey, it's a little bit convoluted. I tend to describe myself as a reluctant advocate. I was on a pathway studying neuropsychology. And had started a master's in neuropsychology, and that was going to be my passion, exploring a whole lot of concept sort of conditions, and then took a career change and moved into working with a federal government agency doing air traffic control.
What a pivot!
A little bit of a pivot, and then I had my children, and my third child, my youngest, was born with a rare neurological condition. So after reflecting on what I'd done, wasting all of my years studying neuropsychology, here I had been gifted a child with a rare neurological condition, and it started to make sense. I thought, oh, maybe that's what the study was all for, so I could read these research papers and actually understand what they were talking about. And then fast forward, when my beautiful son was getting ready to finish school, which is a really big milestone transition for all young people, but particularly for people with complex conditions. We'd had the pandemic, and there was an opportunity to change careers. And I found myself bringing the neuro sort of psychology qualifications and background, my government legislation and policy work, and my lived experience as a parent of someone living with Angelman syndrome, created this perfect soup of sort of lived experience advocacy, and I moved into specialist support coordination to help other families like mine navigate what was becoming increasingly complex in the disability space.
Wow, yeah. So a lot of families describe, like families of children with complex disabilities will describe navigating these sort of systems and experiences as like a real maze. What are some of the most significant barriers that you see that they face in general, and how do you think that those affect their experience of allied health support?
Yeah, it's a great question. Do you know, when I think about a maze, sometimes I think it's even still too neat and tidy, and it's sort of nice two-dimensional. It's a labyrinth. It's a crazy, messy labyrinth that you can get lost in and struggle to find your way out. So families living with complex rare disease and conditions obviously have a lot of complexity working in the health space, in addition to a number of their therapy requirements. And they have to have extra advocacy and additional support, even navigating childcare, kindy, school, employment. So they're already at capacity, they're already juggling so much. But also they've become experts in many different language systems. So they'll be experts in how to describe the diagnosis or the condition. But they may not be experts in understanding the disability language system that the allied health practitioners work in. So they need a translator. They need someone who's going to help them take their wealth of knowledge and translate it so that it's meaningful and able to be applied in the disability space. And I think they also need people who understand who's who in the zoo. So in the disability landscape, we'll have the NDIS, plan managers, but there's the NDIS Quality and Safeguards Commission that really regulates and puts expectations on service provision. Allied health providers have their own organisations like APRA. They have their own professional bodies. And it's not for families to navigate. Who are we writing this report for? What's the language we need to use? Who's the audience? The family just wants someone to help them tell their story in a way that translates so that they don't have to keep repeating it. So an allied health practitioner who's really great at taking complex and making it simple and taking the language and making it relevant.
So I guess my next question was actually going to be what role do you think that the therapist plays in helping families navigate these systems and navigate their way through the barrier? And so do you think that they're sort of in a way helping steward or helping shine a light or be a North Star or that translator? Like, how would you describe the role of the therapist?
Yeah, I think it varies depending on how the family is functioning, and it depends on the stage of life, and it depends on the support network. What I mean by that is for some families they'll really need strong leadership, sector leadership, and even in the allied health space, while we're also hoping in some cases families have support coordination or navigation support, there are roles that allied health can play in their own space in terms of leadership. So you might have a speech therapist who may take a leadership role in talking with the school around communication support. You might have a physiotherapist who might take a leadership role or a partnership role in how to restructure the PT class at school. But there are the families who really need the therapist to take quite a strong role in working across the team. And helping the families set priorities. Because these families are already really stretched. They're juggling so much that understanding maybe what is important but not urgent, or what is critical given the state of the sector, the age of the young person, the stage of transition, even the stage of funding that's available. So that partnership, some people will want people to walk alongside, some people will want them to lead, and other people would like them on tap, just as a consultant, as a sounding board, because they really want to drive it themselves. So authentically listening to what the family needs for that stage and at that time, because we all reserve the right to change our mind in a heartbeat, because life is never linear. But just really understanding, how can we serve now? And what's your priority, and how would you like us to work together?
Yeah, I guess on that notion of work and what you just described as like leading, I'm not sure if there's the concept of the coactive leadership model, leading from the front, leading from behind, leading from beside, within, etc. It sounds like there's so many different angles of leadership that are relevant for a health professional in the navigating the labyrinth, right? And underneath that, there needs to be trust. And I think that role of trust is so important. So can you describe what does good partnership look like, and what does it also look like when that trust is broken?
It's easy to describe what it's like when it's broken, and to probably start with what families don't want. I think when there's not trust there, the relationship might continue, but it's very transactional. And there's also probably a sense from the families that maybe the practitioner's business goals, priorities, deadlines and obligations are taking a precedent over what the family and what the young person might need. So what does a good rapport, a good functioning relationship look like? It's one where you've really nutted out from the beginning, how will we work together? How can I serve you? And what are your priorities now? How will we check in with each other? And how will we know how we're both working? So how will we establish that really genuine, authentic communication channel to sort of say, not right now, or send me an emoji that says we're on or we're not, because I know you're really busy. So understanding, importantly, it's not just the family's availability to attend an appointment, it's their capacity to even absorb what's happening now. There's so many things that draw and pull on people, particularly families with complex rare conditions, health crises, multiple appointments, surgeries, different medications. So we've got to look at what is the family's capacity to absorb what we're asking them to do, and if they're willing, what are the tools we can help them with? So a plan on a page, a roadmap. A little snakes and ladders board, because we're going to go up and we're going to come down. But something that just says, where are we now? And what are the 3 or 4 steps we're going to take? And I also really love it when allied health practitioners don't assume every family has digital technology or a printer at home, and they come with their own pack. Here are the reports we're building. Here's the research we're doing. Here's the articles I've read. Can I show you? A bit of a lookbook. Here's the care that we've taken to understand what you need. Can I show you? Can I show you what we're doing rather than just talk about what we're doing? And I love a good, quick email summary afterwards, assuming I've forgotten every single thing someone said, that says, here are the 10 points we covered, and here are the 3 next actions.
Yeah, and I think that's something where, in the age of AI, getting summaries is absolutely crucial. I want to pick up on that point that you just made earlier about, you used the word transactional, when these things that are meant to be relational are essentially transactional. So in your work at Rare Voices and Angelman Syndrome Association, or the ASA, how have you seen effective collaboration between allied health professionals and families? How have you seen that lead to actual better outcomes?
So from the Rare Voices perspective, we work in systemic advocacy. So that's really around working at the sector level, around the tools and the processes that can build better outcomes. So at the moment, we're developing the Rare Disease Disability Toolkit, and that is actually going to be the resources that really help build collective, collaborative advocacy support for families and people working with families with rare disease disability. We're very excited about that. And that came from an Australian government grant, an NDIS Peer Support Capacity Building Grant.
Did you get the piece?
We
well
did.
Done.
It's a first of its kind toolkit for rare disease disability. But what we also know, and from that experience for families with Angelman syndrome, families have shared with us that when we get that multidisciplinary team, so you might have one allied health practitioner who's taking a lead role, and in many cases it'll be the behaviour support practitioner or the OT, but as I said, for some people it might be the speech therapist, because that's the really big thing that they're working on. Motor coordination with physio, for example. We've got a practitioner who's happy to lead the multidisciplinary team and come together, and in many cases take stuff off the plate of the family. We've got you. I've got your back. We're going to go as a team. We're going to have all of that disability jargony conversation offline. We're going to take a trauma-informed approach and not have to have the family sit through and listen to all of this if they don't want to. And then we're going to come back with a really considered plan where we're all pulling in the same direction. The last thing families need is allied health that aren't collaborating together and are pulling the family in so many different ways that they either break or they put it all down and say, I can't do any of it. Yeah. So something that's achievable, collective, and has taken a really considered approach. Again, I love it when practitioners and allied health say, we've taken the time to understand what's important for you. We've looked at what we need to do, and now what we want to do, what say you? And so then you bring in that family leadership into that team at a time that suits them. A trauma-informed approach is really important at the moment. Families are extremely anxious about what's happening in this sector. And so now more than ever is being able to lean in and say, we've got you, and we'll work through this together. We might not have all the answers. Yeah. None of us have the answers. Yeah. Anyone who tells you they have all the answers is lying. Yeah. But that genuine commitment to navigate it together and to get lost in the labyrinth and then find a way out together.
It's kind of like, it's really dark, but I'll hold the torch and I might shine it on something that we both can look at, and maybe I'll hand the torch over, you know?
And someone just to hold your hand.
And
so maybe we'll stop walking in the labyrinth and we'll just pause for a bit. We'll catch our breath, we'll just reflect, and then we'll go again when we're ready.
Yeah, beautiful. And so with all the current changes and all the uncertainty right now in the NDIS, how do you think that families and therapists can work together as like a truly united voice? Like we're talking about, you know, trying to dispel some of this fragmentation, and essentially what you're talking about, I'm hearing you say, like, it's trying to increase families' agency. So how do you think that this collaboration between allied health professionals and families can lead to better, like driving better outcomes?
At the moment, I would say write down your story. Tell your story, and tell your story in a way that offers opportunity for solutions. So I see on a lot of social media groups, Facebook groups, chat groups, people are sharing their pain and their anxiety, and that's okay, but that's kind of going in the anxiety soup in a way.
100%.
And what can we do about it? So at Rare Voices Australia, what we know working with the government at that federal level government advocacy is when we can bring that lived experience story, that authentic, what is happening today, what are we hearing, that really cuts through, that really resonates and it lands. So if you're going to feel your pain, why not write down your story once and then you've got it to tell everybody, share it with your team, and if you feel comfortable, give them permission to share it with their organisation or their association or their professional body or a peak body, so that we can amplify that voice, share that experience, and get better outcomes for it.
That's beautiful. I love that notion of like truly navigate with narrative. Like let that lead the way, let your story lead the way. I'm very passionate about that as well, and I think a lot of our viewers today will be feeling the same way. You know, the human condition is about connection, and usually connection comes as a byproduct of story sharing. So I think that's a lovely way to sort of dovetail that into our next question, which is really about supporting someone with a rare condition. It can feel really daunting for therapists, especially if it's like an unfamiliar thing. You know, you described before about rare conditions. You know, not everyone knows everything. So what would you say to clinicians who feel that they might be a little bit out of their depth, and how can they provide quality care even without condition-specific sort of knowledge?
So there are more than 7,000 rare diseases that we know of, and many, many more that are yet to be understood. So it would be impossible for any one practitioner and even any one organisation to understand those. But really understanding where to go and who to ask for more advice or more information is good. And so families are often the best expert around their loved one's condition. So really understanding from the family, how are you experiencing the condition? Because what's on Google maybe outdated, but it's not necessarily reflective of how that family is living with that condition. So really understanding and genuinely understanding the family, how they describe the condition and what they need. Ask the family who are their trusted resources that they go to. Is there anyone working in the field doing research that I might be able to Google, or might be able to look up and learn a bit? Who's doing contemporary work? And then the great resource, again, it's Australian government funded, but it's the Australian curated resource, is the RARE portal. Okay. So the RARE portal is Australian content about rare diseases for the Australian audience.
Okay.
And we're actually adding now additional information around the rare disease disability aspect within an NDIS, an Australian government specific context. So it saves people looking for what's happening overseas, and we can't necessarily relate it. So it's incredibly powerful work. So there are rare conditions being added to the RARE portal every month that can help, definitely marketed for and very usable for allied health practitioners. So the final thing is really understanding we're all human. We all have very different needs, we all have personality, so the person isn't just their rare disease and their condition, they're their wonderful, vibrant personality, they're the person within their family unit, they're a member of their community, and just really meeting them where they are and understanding what's important to them today, and leaning in, understanding that there's the family are probably stretched. But I think any really good allied health practitioner who wants to make a difference should be running towards the rare disease sector because it's the most rewarding space to work.
How amazing. That's such an amazing perspective that you're sharing about that. I feel like you're someone who, you have this sense of glow when you talk about this. What is your hope for the future of, I guess, from your position as both a parent and as an advocate, when it comes to the future of allied health professionals and like really family-centred care? What is your hope?
So we can't do it without you. That's what I'd be saying. We really can't. And so the hope is that in this climate of disruption, and we know it's quite disturbing, and there's a lot of disability reform happening, a lot of change, and many people have change fatigue, the hope is that we go back right to core principles. And if we do the basics well, if we take a human rights lens, if we take a trauma-informed approach, if we take a person-centred, family-centred approach to business, if we turn up and honour our commitments, if we come with simple tools that help people navigate and understand what we need to achieve, what the family needs to achieve, if we've got some shared priorities, if we allow the policy and legislation changes, if we can influence them, absolutely, do submissions, etc. But if we can't and we have to make the best out of it, going back to those core principles is what families have always been asking for. Families don't really want to have to navigate the political landscape of what you can do, what you can't do, what we can fund, what we can't fund. They're a gaping hole of need right now, and they want someone to show up, to lean in, and to say, I've got you, and we'll walk with you. And so I'm hoping that as businesses reflect on where to from here, that they come back to the values and the core principles and say, if we just do this well, it doesn't matter what happens from here on in.
I love that. Show up, lean in, we've got you. Thank you so much for having me. Thank you for sharing all this incredible wisdom and opening up this labyrinth of understanding that we can navigate with narrative, and that story sharing can be the currency that we connect with, and that fundamentally our sense of belonging in this world is through our sense of connection. And today you've just really highlighted that. So thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you, absolute pleasure.